Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandella. Last week I asked a crowd of medical professionals, if you were a part of the body, what would you be? And I gave them a chance to think about it, and some took a while to come up with it, and a few, like, their hands went up right away. They knew exactly what part of the body they were. Actually, the one that went up, the hand that went up first, was a doctor who said, I would be the nervous system. I'm always thinking, I'm always responding, and I'm quick to respond. I don't always have time to think about stuff. Another person said, you know what, I'm the brain. I like to stop. I like to think about things. I like to process the messages that are coming in and be thoughtful about it. Another one of the staff said, I'm the hands. I like to take things and do. Like, I like to get my hands dirty and make things work. And I said, you know what, I think that I'm like the mouth. I like to be a messenger. I like to be a mouthpiece. I like to share ideas. But I said I also like to smile. Smiling's my favorite. So they chuckled, so I hope you did too. But really, the reason I'm talking about this, the reason I'm bringing this up, is that we were talking about our strengths and weaknesses. And in our series called Beautiful Things, oftentimes when we think about beautiful things, we only think about all the awesome stuff. But sometimes our weaknesses are things that show up in ways that make us even better. And so today's message is permission to be you. And in our quest to figure out what it would look like to be able to be more authentic, more vulnerable, and more courageous, which is based on Brené Brown's book, The Power of Vulnerability, she has 10 guideposts. So last week we kind of set this up, and this week we're going to cover that first guidepost. And the first guidepost is cultivate authenticity. And so when I was working through with this group of medical professionals, what is it that makes you tick? What are the parts and pieces of you? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? We were trying to uncover not only the confidence in the things that we bring to the table, but also kind of prevent ourselves from doing really like weird, difficult things to hide our weaknesses. See, in our strengths, if we know what our strengths are, it actually gives us room to be able to admit or talk about or deal with some of our weaknesses. And if we're able to talk about our weaknesses or admit, be honest and authentic about our weaknesses, then we spend less time trying to hide them, potentially doing damage in other people's lives because we're reacting out of protect rather than being open and honest with those things. So Brené Brown says that we need to cultivate authenticity. It's not something that just happens. It's something that needs to be intentional. And interestingly enough, I had a chance to talk to one of those doctors afterwards, and he said, dude, that message was straight out of the Bible. And I wasn't talking at all about Jesus in this group of medical professionals. We were talking about our different strengths and weaknesses and the things, like kind of our natural wiring and what that means in the workplace. And but he said that was straight out of the Bible, and I said, I thought you might notice. And what he was referencing is a long portion from 1 Corinthians 12. The Bible talks about how we are made up of many, many different parts. And it says that in that, these many parts are kind of wired to come together to make a whole. It goes on to talk about how that's really the way God designed the church. But prior to it getting to that church part, it's talking about us. And the value that each of us has is a lot like the human body. So in 1 Corinthians 12, 14 through 18, the Message version reads kind of fun, like normal language, like a conversation you might have with a friend. It says, I want you to think about how all this makes you more significant, not less. A body isn't just a single part blown up into something huge. It's all different, but similar parts arranged and functioning together. So you have permission to be you, with your strengths and your weaknesses. It says, if foot said, I'm not elegant like the hand, embellished with rings, I guess I don't belong to this body, would that make it so? If ear said, I'm not beautiful like the eye, transparent and expressive, I don't deserve a place on the head, would you want to remove it from the body? See, if the body was all eye, how could it hear? If it was all ear, how could it smell? As it is, we see that God has carefully placed each part of the body right where he wanted it. And so for us to cultivate authenticity, I believe, and I think the Bible supports it, that we have to get more comfortable with our weaknesses. And in order to do that, I think we need to spend a little bit more time in our strengths. It's not necessarily arrogance to talk about what we're good at, what we're designed to do. If the I says, you know what, I see at distance, I see up close, that is not the I being arrogant. That is the I saying, this is who I am, this is what I was put here to do. And when I's comfortable with that, then the I doesn't wish that it was the ear and then it could hear. And so in our faith journeys, I want to invite us to work on cultivating authenticity through acknowledging some of our strengths and our weaknesses. This week's kind of homework or the takeaway is really simple. And sometimes we don't like talking about strengths. It feels like arrogance. And sometimes we like to hide our weaknesses, which unfortunately prevents real authenticity. So if you struggle with that, I want you to think about it in terms of superpowers and kryptonite. Even Superman, who could do all things, right? See through things, carry things, leap tall buildings, whatever his little catchphrase is, but he had kryptonite. It is okay to have strengths. It is okay to have weaknesses or limitations. But we have to get more comfortable with that so that we can bring our best selves and we can exist in this world as our true selves, as God designed us to be. So this week in your faith, list out what some of your biggest strengths are, what you bring to this world, what God created you to do, and then also be comfortable listing out some of those weaknesses. Write them down. Maybe talk to somebody about things that are just not in your wheelhouse, and get more comfortable with that so that we can be authentic as we head into the next several guideposts in our quest to be more vulnerable, more authentic, and more courageous. Thanks for watching Faith in 5. If you like what you see, please like and share. If you're interested in making a donation to our ministry, please click the link below.